Hey, how's it going, guys? The Boss here with another video for you guys. And today, guys, I have another game review for all of you beautiful people out there. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Resident Evil 2 Remake that released back in 2019, which is a remake of the 1998 Resident Evil classic, Resident Evil 2. So, for this horror classic, guys, I'm joined today by CaptainRyker94, and we're both going to be tackling our own respective reviews on this game. I'll start off with giving my review of it, and then later on in the video, we're going to get into his personal experiences and his brief thoughts on Resident Evil 2 Remake. And I just want to say right at the start of this as well, thank you, Ryker, for joining me on this video, man. If you guys want to check out his content, he does a lot of Let's Play video game content and some other things, go and check out his content in the description of this video and give him a sub. And, of course, watch his videos. With that out of the way, guys, let us get right into the review. The story of Resident Evil 2 Remake, this was my first, I think, major foray into the Resident Evil series. The horror aesthetic for me was never a big thing that I played in video games up until the Resident Evil series, which has become a favorite video game series of mine from this game and other games that I've played throughout the series since I've started playing the RE2 Remake. RE2 Remake, for me, the story-wise, was really good. Leon and Claire are both great characters, both meeting up. They both have their own separate experiences escaping from Raccoon City when the G-Virus ends up releasing and destroying absolutely everything, making everyone completely zombified and creating horrible mutants like a giant mutated alligator or whatever the hell William Birkin ended up becoming. It's just a great aesthetic. It's a fantastic storyline. Leon has a great personality, and I recognize the beginnings that they were going for with his personality, his he gives no shit attitude, and his absolute, like, quirky personality that was shown in Resident Evil 4. I thought that was a fantastic touch, just little nuances here and there. Claire is a really good introduction as well, mostly looking for her brother and fighting alongside Leon, albeit in separate areas with their own stories and whatnot, going through Raccoon City and ultimately escaping before the city gets completely nuked to wipe out any evidence of Umbrella's involvement within the outbreak. The one thing I wish they would have done more with the story, though, because this is a Resident Evil game, the story's not the biggest emphasis by any means. I really wish that Leon and Claire would have interacted a lot more with each other, because from what I understand from the original game, if you play, because there's two separate campaigns that you have to play through. You have to play through one, and then the second one for an A and B scenario. Apparently those scenarios intersected a lot more back in the 98 version. For example, if you take an item or leave an item in a certain area, that other character that you play as in the B scenario can go and get that item. And I don't know how many interactions they had in that original game, but I assume it was a lot more. They interact in this game a fair bit, but honestly, I wish the interactions would have been a lot more. They would have fleshed out their own characters and relationship more. But all in all, though, for the character-wise and just for the different campaigns that they have, where Leon meets with Ada Wong and Claire meets with Sherry Birkin, respectively, without going into spoiler territory, despite the fact the story is not a huge focus in this game, the story was really good for a horror game. I very much did enjoy a survival horror game story like this, especially since it was, like, I would say my first major one outside the RE3 remake. So I very much enjoyed it, and I really much enjoyed the characters. I'm going to say this right off the bat. Graphically, this game is absolutely amazing. The RE engine is working overtime to perform realistic-looking graphics and performing overtime on the grotesque enemy designs, on the character designs. It's all just fantastic. The detail on the zombies, for example, and the different monsters that you fight throughout the game are so grotesque and so realistic, it's amazing. Leon and Claire look good for their character models, as well as the other characters that appear in the game. They all look realistic. Raccoon City itself is this big destructive mess that looks like legitimate realistic buildings, and just everything about this game, it's hard to describe because it looks like real life. It looks like if there was an actual zombie apocalypse that was going to occur, that's what this game looks like. The visual effects of shooting zombies, having legs and arms blow off, the creepy environments going through the Raccoon City Police Department where everything breaks and shatters, and just the destructiveness of this place being so run down and realistic, it's amazing. Picture anywhere like a realistic building, and that's exactly what this game looks like. It's hard to describe because that's exactly what it is to me. It looks like real life. It looks like if this was going to happen, this game would be simulating what's going on, and it's fantastic. So that's the only real way I can think to put this. And I will say this too, musically for this game too, I know this game doesn't have a lot of the classic tracks from the original 98 release, unless you buy DLC, which I did not do for this review, or the game period. But I will say the music is very atmospheric, and it works for the different moments where you're running from enemies, or you're going through the police station, or you're running from the alligator, for example, in the sewer segment for Leon. There's a lot of really good moments like that here. None of the tracks are really memorable to me, but they work very atmospherically. So I think that it works very well in those departments. Okay, so with any Resident Evil game, obviously the main thing to take away would be the survival horror element of the game. And I must say, combined with the visuals and whatnot, this game makes for a fantastic survival horror experience. They go with the third-person perspective like they did in Resident Evil 4, which I'm going to assume, aside from RE7 and the upcoming RE8, that is the style that they were going to go with for the 3 remake and as well as the 2 remake. It works really well considering the success of 4, and obviously they had the same thing in 5 and 6, which I did play 5. I might review that in the future. But I will say this. When it comes down to the gameplay itself, it plays like your standard survival horror game. You have limited inventory, you have to find weapons throughout the game, you have to find and manage your ammo, combine gunpowder together that you find throughout the station, you have to go and find different healing herbs and whatnot to combine together, and you have different storage boxes in this game that you can store key items that you find into, have puzzles and whatnot throughout the station, like finding separate keys, and unlocking certain doors and getting those items, and then backtracking to those other areas, because backtrack is a huge element of this game. Inventory management and item management, especially when you have bullet-spongy enemies, when you have to soak a lot of ammo into using them, is a different addition, I must admit, because like I said, this was my first major survival horror experience outside playing the RE3 remake first. So, and this is kind of what's got me hooked on the survival horror genre. RE2 did a fantastic job of implementing the tension of having to meticulously craft items that you need, while also managing having your key items available with you to use at any time, otherwise you risk going back to a certain area with enemies in order to get that item back to use, or making sure you have enough ammo with you, having healing items, and of course, managing to make sure that you have enough weapons with you that you would want to use, like the shotgun or the pistols and whatnot that you get throughout the game. I think that the inventory management and the survival horror aspect works fantastically, and the enemies in this game also work very well for strategy and whatnot, because zombies in this game take so many bullets at certain points, especially on higher difficulties, and a lot of the enemies that you face, including the Birkin boss fights, soak up a lot of ammo, so you have to be careful when it comes to that conservation, which is something that this game does well as a survival horror game. And other unique gameplay elements that I really liked was like the wooden boards, for example, that you can use to board up windows in the police station. Even if some of those windows don't come to play when you're first running through the corridors, eventually zombies will break through the window, and that gives you just more enemies to deal with. So I really like little details like that, too, that you can conduct, especially when going through, say, the police station. Another key element of this game, too, besides survival horror and dealing with enemies, is the puzzle element of it, where it reminds you of, like, the Devil May Cry style puzzles, to an extent, just a little bit more fleshed out, I think. You still have to go around the police station and find different items. Some of these items that you find at the start of the game, you can go and immediately go and get some extra collectibles and goodies like weapons and ammo and whatnot. If you go and memorize like different lock combinations and whatnot throughout lockers placed throughout the station, you can find keypads in order to unlock stuff in the armory, for example. Or if you look at the desk in the main station hall, where all the officers were, you can unlock Leon's desk and get some really good items there as well. There's little environmental puzzles like that that work really well, but generally you're going to be finding items and then using those items later on in the game to unlock specific doors for each player's campaign, for both Leon and Claire. There's not really much difference in terms of the puzzles either. There's certain item locations that are completely different and certain places that you can't go into because they're character specific. But I will say for the items that you do get, especially later in the game, because you do have access to get back to the main part of the police station, even if you're in other areas like the laboratory or the sewer or anywhere else for that matter, you can go back to the police station. And you can use these extra items to go back and either get main story items you need, or go get more ammo or healing items or anything else for that matter. It's like a little bonus for remembering, like, hey, I have this key that I got 80% of the way through the game. Let me backtrack to the start of the game, and I can go back and get some extra ammo. So it works really well. This game is very addicting when it comes to that. Some of the puzzles and whatnot, I wouldn't say tedious, but some of the backtracking can get a little old after a while, especially if you have a new swarm of enemies and whatnot. But it's all part of the strategy of the game, and I think the puzzle element and definitely the survival horror mechanics are very well fine-tuned in this game. I think that's something that for a survival horror game, it nails brilliantly.
There has to be someone here. Not good.
David! Marvin! You there? I found a way out! It's in here! Send reinforcements! East hallway!
Back up! Get the fuck off! Jesus! They're everywhere!
I gotta be honest, guys. I know I played the RE3 remake before I played this game, and I must say, I don't really have many complaints about RE2. There were some moments here and there where the backtracking and some of the boss fights and the different environments and whatnot that you go through being a little difficult to navigate, especially when it's overswarmed with enemies. And I think the most frustrating puzzle for me was the liquid balancing puzzle where you have to make the... I forget what it's called. You gotta make the cure in order to kill all the plants and kill Plant 42 in the laboratory area so you can get the key card in order to progress and get the G-Virus vaccine in either campaign for Leon or Claire. But other than that, though, I don't really have any complaints about this game. This game was a fantastic experience. It looks great, sounds great, the gameplay is fair, it's addicting, and the inventory management and dealing with the unique enemies and boss fights throughout this game is just fantastic. And the story was quirky enough, while not a huge focus. The characters were engaging enough, they look great, and they have enough interaction in their own separate scenarios to make it worth playing through each scenario and experiencing different sides of the story with different characters. And the story was intriguing enough, which is saying something for a survival horror game. So I will say, ultimately, Resident Evil 2 Remake was a fantastic game. If you have not played this game yet, you are missing out completely. You need to go and check this game out as soon as possible. It's available on all modern consoles, PS4, Xbox One. You can find it, I think, on pretty much any of those consoles now, including the PS5 or Xbox One X if you have those. What I'm saying is, if you don't have this game already, pick it up and play it. It's totally worth it. It's a fantastic experience, and it's one that I might go back to and play in the future. This was definitely a highlight game for me to play this year so far, and I very much loved my experience. So all in all, Resident Evil 2 Remake, fantastic game and a fantastic survival horror experience and a great introduction to me to the genre in order to me, and it inspired me to maybe go back and play some other games in the series. So that's how good this game has been for me. So all in all, fantastic. Now let's turn it over to CaptainRyker94 and let's get his thoughts on the Resident Evil 2 Remake as well as some personal experiences that he's had. Take it away, Ryker.
Resident Evil 2 Remake was a spectacular game. Was a fantastic game, bringing back the roots of the original Resident Evil back the way how I know and love. Resident Evil 2 back in 1998 was one of the first games I have ever played to my core memory. So once I heard that Resident Evil 2 had a remake coming out, I was super stoked, jumping with joy, and getting ready back to go into the fear that was Raccoon City. Me playing as Leon for the very first time, coming across the liquor in the hallway by the STARS office was a frightening event, to say the least. Because back in 98, compared to 98's, it was a cinematic showing you that it was there, and that was it. You fought it, you killed it, you moved on. This one didn't have that. Resident Evil 2 Remake had something more up its sleeve. It was an open window with rain, loud noises, and the liquor was right on the roof. At a sight, out of mind, didn't even see it. Then it showed itself, and that's when the fear struck in even more. Wasn't the zombies? Wasn't even Mr. X at the time. It was the liquor. No amounts of fear has ever come from a video game in my entire life than Resident Evil 2. So, in light of my review of Resident Evil 2, it was a perfect remake that brought back fans, old fans, and brought in new ones alike. I don't think there will ever be another Resident Evil game, remake or new, that will ever top RE2 and RE2 Remake. I thank you guys for having me on here, and have a good night.
And that is going to do it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching this review. It's a bit different than the usual review format, because I would have scripted out certain sections and included a bit more gameplay and stuff here and there for individual review, but this is a very big collaborative effort here between me and Ryker, and this was a fantastic experience to do. I wanted to get this video done and give some brief thoughts of mine, and obviously include Ryker in on it, because he is a fantastic YouTuber. He makes some good content. Ryker, thank you so much for joining me on this video, man. I very much appreciate it. Maybe bring you back for some other reviews and whatnot in the future if you ever want to. But otherwise, man, thank you for joining me in on this. Very much appreciated. If you guys want to go check out his YouTube channel, please check him out in the description of this video. Give him a sub, follow him on his videos, give them a like, do whatever you have to do to interact with this man's content, because he produces some really good Let's Play stuff. And he seems like a really cool guy. So go and check him out. Thank you, Ryker, once again for joining me in this video. And if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you guys want to catch more videos like this in the future. And comment your thoughts and feelings down below, either on the review or your experiences with the Resident Evil 2 Remake, or perhaps any other games that you would like to see me review in the future. So with that in mind, guys, thank you so much for watching once again. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.